Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music. I'm ticking another one off the list today because there's a number of people I've always wanted to speak to, and my guest today is one of them. Now, Steve, my earliest recollection of Yes, etc., was going round my friend's house when I was a young lad, and they were, this sounds odd, but it's not. Back in the day, well, most of my friends were 10 years older than me.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Now these days that would be odd, but back then it was fine. I mean, we were all part of a church group, believe it or not. And my mum said, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Go around there, and we'd spend most of the weekend delving into people's vinyl collection and sitting there and actually just spending time listening to things whilst doing other activities like trying to brew beer. And stuff as well.
Yes.
And Yes was one of those bands that I was happy enough to come across in this little group of friends. And so some of the group were incredibly fanatic about Yes as well, which was lovely. And they became firm favourites of mine. So I've always wanted to speak to you. Thank you so much for doing this today. And we will be talking to Steve about the re-release of 2 of his solo albums and a little bit more about his whole life and journey in music as well, straight after this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Thank you, Steve, for joining me.
All right.
I have to say that the thing that first got me into Yes was the voice, because John had this amazing high voice. I always sung in a really high voice as well.
Yeah.
I always wondered why, but that was kind of, there's this other guy that sings in an incredibly high voice. But then it was like getting into listening to you playing all of this complex stuff and just thinking, what a beautiful thing that you do. And you were such characters as well, I did get to meet Rick one time at a festival, and he stole my Jelly Babies, which was yeah. Well, yeah, it's the sleight of hand, you see, isn't it? That comes with being a keyboard virtuoso. Tell me, why release these or re-release these 2 solo efforts of yours now? That the 2 albums that we're talking about, Portraits of Bob Dylan, and Natural Timbre. Why do you choose to release these again now?
Well, back in the mid-90s, I started a label called Howe Sound, and we did Motif, and we did Homebrew. These were sort of like projects of mine that were kind of ongoing and have different volumes. And so we then did the Steve Howe Trio on Howe Sound. So basically, it's a label that's a great resource for my solo music. Well, these albums managed to come back. Some rights came back for these albums to me. So I thought, well, maybe we could, represent this and see how it sounds now. So I was delighted with both albums musically. So I thought, well, I got nothing to lose here, really. I'd like to see these on our own label, Howe Sound. So that's part of the deal. But it's also a chance to look back. This is, 25 years ago. So they both have a part of a story to tell about my career. And certainly Portraits, obviously, I didn't write anything, and I just arranged and recorded and produced it. And then Natural Timbre was to put the electrics away and see what you can do on acoustics for a whole album. So both were great fun because they were actually quite different from, Turbulence or Quantum Guitar or something, when you kind of feel like, I get into certain things and we go with it. But this was different.
Well, now, look, before we actually discuss the music itself, I just want to say, because you're releasing these on nice coloured vinyl and things like that. How much easier is that to do these days? Because just from a technical point of view.
Well, it's a timing point of view. You have to, plan your release so that you give it 3 months or 5 months or whatever it is. I think we had to give it quite a bit of warning. So we had the remastered version that I did with my friend Curtis Schwartz, who works with me and Yes a great deal. So basically we did those remastering, but for vinyl was the special chance, to do that. So they weren't available before on vinyl, and that's part of the theme, how sound. I mean, who would have thought, when vinyl went downhill, that it would then go uphill. So these are the wonderful, mysterious ways that music business works, and entices people to have, again, actually have something in your hand called a record as opposed to the download. So it gives a balance, and also the sleeve and the image. So it's basically gives the flavor of much, much more than just pressing a play button and then it ending. That's the engagement might end there. But I think with an actual item, it perpetuates, and you can see it there. You can get it out and play it again.
Yeah. With family, I mean, your son's part of the trio, etc. Does he have children as well? Or
Dylan doesn't have children, but my two daughters do.
Your two daughters do. So you must be your grandfather. So are you beginning to understand why people are perhaps going back to vinyl?
Well, I wouldn't presume I understand it, but I basically know that things go round in circles,
like everything in life.
Players come back, that she came back, and these things do kind of repeat, but there's a good reason. It's a kind of reevaluation for the new listeners have got coming from this of a different perspective. Maybe there's one of them's 25. They were born when I made these records, so they get a different perspective about vinyl than I did when I saw the decline and then the return. So I'm really delighted. I think it's a really fun medium, and actually it's very nice listening on vinyl. I listen to vinyl and CDs, but basically I like that world very much, where you listen to an album.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that things like vinyl have come back at a time when we've got things like AI stepping up. I actually think that a lot of society are looking at it and going, we've got less control over this technology than perhaps we thought, and maybe it's important that we actually get hold of these things in a tangible way.
Yes.
Same with photos. I mean, people have gravitated from keeping photos in printing them out, putting them in photo books, to having everything on their social media and everything. But I think people are beginning to wonder, well, what happens if the plug suddenly goes tomorrow?
Yes.
Where's all my memory? Where's all of this stuff that I love?
It's great having thousands of pictures, and it's not easy finding one when you remember that it exists, but you don't know quite where it is. But of course, it's got better because of the dating that now happens automatically on most pictures. Unless you pull a whole load of pictures at one point, they'll always be dated that one. But if it's just general use, I think it's great because you do have a whole way of exploring your history. So in fact, I think it's greatly underestimated. I'm not interested in. I mean, it's fortunate the cloud exists, of course, because it is holding copies of everything. But social media, I'm not really involved in. So I see my iPhoto, or photo as it's now called, as a golden place, where I can find things that I want. And sometimes I'm looking for pictures, or quite often looking for something that I remember that I want to use now. So fascinating how broad it is, because it has every picture of not only my guitar collection, not only my crazy photography, loads of pictures of family situations and also musical situations.
Now, we've had a few people on here who have had Bob Dylan as a bit of a muse as part of their career. Why Bob Dylan for you? Why did you choose Bob Dylan?
Well, it started really early on when Freewheeling came out of it. I just heard about it and bought it and went, this is amazing. And I've been locked in, right up until 88 when he did Street Legal. That was a huge period of writing. And that's when I was so hot to trot with everything Bob did. So I loved the way he wrote, his poetry, the way he used the guitar, sometimes the goodness of, the harmonica and the kind of edgy guitar was just great. But he knew when to play it smooth. And that's why he kept changing his career as he went through it, with different kinds of groups behind him and different amounts of people. And, by the time he got to Street Legal, he had an amazing band behind him. And Dave Lindsay and people, just great musicians. And Bob appreciated that. And, so, yeah, big admirer and great respect for him.
I think he was always, if you were going to play with Bob Dylan live, I think you had to have your wits about you. He was one for changing the song.
That's right, yeah. He did become like that. Yes. I guess when Robbie Robinson and the band were there, then those arrangements were fairly firm because they were very, very simple, like a Rolling Stone. I mean, brilliantly simple, because sometimes simple is brilliant, and we don't need complexity all the time. So there was so much control, I think, then. And Bob's his own master, so he's going to develop, and he keeps developing.
Yeah. Have you, outside of listening to Bob's music, did you read much about Bob? Did you sort of study up about Bob going into making this record?
Outside, of course, the songbooks, you had to have the words. And basically, I've read Chronicles, and I've read most probably half a dozen books about Bob Dylan in different directions, of travel, so to speak, maybe more. And I've got some favorite pictures. In fact, my son, Dylan Howe, for a birthday present a few months back, he bought me a poster actually of Bob Dylan with a cigarette on his harmonica stand. He had the guitar, harmonica, and the cigarette, and it's classic. Thanks, Dylan.
Did you go and see the biopic when it went out in the cinema?
I saw enough online to know that there is no biopic that I can watch. I think they did a good job. I think they missed one huge thing, which affected me a lot about it, was that the guitar sound and the guitar he was playing didn't exist then. So they used a modern kind of rather nasty sounding guitar compared to a Martin, which was always what Bob played, or a Gibson. So he played both. He most probably played a few other guitars, but he had a lovely sound. He had a convincing sound. But the weakness in that picture musically was that guitar sound was inappropriate.
I love the fact that you spotted that. I wouldn't have expected anything less, but what a beautiful thing. Guys, if you're going to make a biopic and musicians are going to watch it, you've got to get it right.
Yeah.
Got to be accurate.
Yeah.
Come on. What did you play on that album that Bob wouldn't have used?
Well, that's interesting because the whole concept of this is completely against really how Bob Dylan likes to play his music live in the studio. So I knew I was breaking every rule in Bob's book and producing this, in isolation and people doing vocals here. I mean, the whole thing, that's why I answered that way. The whole thing is Bob. But having said that, I think he could have, might have, maybe will enjoy, some of the acoustic work that I did, like for Lonesome Death. But the thing, basically the way I arranged Sad-Eyed Lowlands might not have appealed to him very much, what he likes about his music being performed. So I fully appreciate that. But I mean, I make records in the way I make records, and I can't do it. I can do it other ways. And when I choose to, I do. But this album was constructed very much in the overdub mode of a guitarist building these arrangements in his own studio and then working with the brilliant Dave Richards in Montreux Studios to pull all these vocals in from different places around the world. Some of them I recorded myself, but most of them were sent, from other countries on tape. So it was a marvelous. Can we make this work? Because it was fairly early on for file sharing.
I was going to say, I mean, when you made this isn't like today when you do this kind of album. If you went to do this today, this would be a lot easier. Yeah,
there was a lot of confusion about 44.1 or 48, and that's the different two variations in digital world. And occasionally we got a tape back, and it was like they played it at the wrong speed or something. We had to reinvent something or ask them to do it again. That only happened once. But in the most part, the technology, it was fairly adventurous because these were actually, I believe these were physical tapes going across the world, with,
wow.
I'm pretty damn sure it was. I don't think I don't think we could have done it. And yeah, I've got the tapes in my file. I've got the tapes in my library. You know, they were like, I don't want to use the wrong, they weren't DAP tapes. They were either ADAT tapes or they were Sony PCMs or something. So yeah, it was quite a technical achievement to make it sound convincing at all. But I think it is nicely. It was done in the right spirit. We wanted to get there with the music sounding beautiful for Bob and for me.
Well, you succeeded in that. So well done indeed. What an array of voices that you've got on this. How did you well, I mean, obviously some of these people you'd been in bands with, etc. So that was slightly easier. But how did you go about getting the other people?
Well, I had to dream it up. You know, I had to have a concept. Could I draw on a few resources? And I suppose it would have started with 4 names, the easiest 4 names. I would maybe thought of John and, Keith. And I'd been working with Annie not long before that. So there was a kind of like, okay, well, I can go there. And then I had to expand it and see where I could get to on it. And I enjoyed that process a lot. You know, but this is another kind of collaboration that we've become second nature now. But at that time, it was just breaking ground. And,
and then did you decide the songs that each of those singers was going to sing, or...
Well, with one exception, so I sent the guys the list of most of these songs and said, which one would you like to sing? But John wrote back and said, I like all the songs, but I'd rather sing Sad Eyed Over the Lowlands. So that put me a new project to do on the side, if you like. Oh, I can get that ready for John. So then everybody else could choose whatever other songs I'd provided. So that's how they work. And Keith chose Lay Lady Lay, Phoebe chose... One Too Many Mornings, and the thing just kind of evolved. I dare say I went to Max Bacon and said, look, well, I mean, Going, Gone. I said, listen, I think I had his voice in mind. I said, this is a song, you could sing this. So basically I put it across and maybe, Annie was perfect for, I mean, in a way, I think the voices were perfect, the way it found out. And
I know, I think you're right. I mean, like Max on that song, I mean, it's very soulful. He brings a bit of soul to it, etc. Did you record any songs that didn't make the album?
Well, here's a nice thing. This is a great opportunity because I'm going to release, I think it's in October, going to release 3 more songs from Bob Dylan that I've recorded. And one of them is the song that didn't go on the first album, didn't go on the original album, but was the first song I sung. And it was a different style of arrangement. So I thought, I don't know whether that fits. So I left it aside. Now I think it's classic. It's really got momentum. So there's 2 other songs that are different versions from the album that I sing them. So I don't want to tell you because it's not quite announced yet, but it's going to be called Signals Cross. And it's an EP, basically, a vinyl EP and downloads of 3 more songs. And I'm kind of excited about that because it does follow on from Portraits in a way that nothing else really should have done or could have done. And that's just a bit of fate that I had these other versions, because one of the songs was in the wrong key for the person who wanted to sing it. So I put it aside, but I'd already sung it. And I thought, well, yeah, it kind of suits me in that key. So that's how it kind of evolved into being 3 more tracks from this project. So thanks for asking.
Well, I assume that there might have been, given the fact that it's such a big catalogue, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, choosing which ones to do.
I wasn't going to do like a Rolling Stone, Blowing in the Wind. I wasn't going to do anything that the Byrds covered brilliantly because, that's all been run. But a lot of these songs, like particularly I Don't Believe You, as most probably, I wouldn't think many people have covered that, but I love covering that song. You just act like we never have met. I mean, it's classic Bob, in every way. And it's as strong as anything else he's written. So he's written a multitude of incredibly strong and melodic poetry.
Which of your own songs is the most Bob? Your own songs?
Oh, of my own songs? Yeah, well, yeah, that's quite interesting. Well, I was going to say a song I haven't released yet is quite... Well, I don't know any. I don't know if I can think quite straight about that question. It's a nice question. Any of my songs that are born like Bob? Well, I mean, in simplicity terms, all sorts of them are quite straightforward. So I could have portrayed them more songs in that way, but I chose not to because I only do that so often, you know, which I enjoy doing a lot. I don't compare my lyrics to Bob's very easily. I would love to, you know, but I mean, Bob's are really very, very magical lyrics, much like John Anderson's. So I write my lyrics by hard work, basically. I get an idea, maybe a title, maybe a first line, and I have to kind of pool over this and look for resources, and you know. But Bob would just sit down and go, you know, like a rolling stone. You know, he would just write stuff like that because it just kind of poured out of him.
It just came off the top of his head. Yeah.
Music and guitar playing kind of pours out of me. But my lyrics are something I cherish, and they're very concealed sometimes. They're not mystical, but they're not too obvious.
Let's talk about the second of these two albums,
Yes.
then. Natural Timbre.
Natural Timbre.
You play an awful lot of instruments on this. How many instruments in total?
I don't think I've ever counted, but I wish I had now because I would have given you an answer. Most probably about 20 at least, because
Wow.
I play mandocello, mandola, mandolin, you know, and I play acoustic bass. I play Hawaiian steel guitar. I play dobro steel guitar. I play a 6-string, 12 strings, Portuguese guitar. You know, so we're already at 10 and we haven't thought about it.
Yeah. Did you own every single instrument that you? Yeah, you owned every single instrument. Wow.
Collected guitar family instruments is my speciality in my collection. You know, I haven't got like 12 Telecasters or something. I've got 2 actually, but basically I don't need a lot of repeats of guitars. If I've got a great guitar, I've got it. It's in the ES5 Switchmaster. Oh, it's great. I don't need 2 of them. But it does allow me to have a lot of different instruments, you know, different kinds of steels and different kinds of plunky things.
Does that take a different kind of discipline then? If you're going to record an album where you are getting out different instruments that you don't necessarily play every day. I mean, I presume you probably get a guitar out fairly most days just to keep the fingers in check and whatever. But if you're playing something that you only get it out once in a blue moon and you're going to then perform on it, does it take a
well, it takes a long preparation. Like another few instruments I do play is like alto harp. You know, you have to tune that. It's got a lot of strings, like tuning a piano, basically. The koto, you know, that appears on the album quite a bit on the first track. It's got koto. And I got that out the other day and it was really out of tune, and I've got to like work out how to tune it all up again. So they do, like, that's an example. If I wanted to record it, I wouldn't be recording it because it's not ready. So some things do take preparation, and I did get things out bags that hadn't been recorded before, you know, ever. And, you know, that's a wonderful experience. And that's partly an album, quite mysterious album, with one of the finest guitarists in the world that I made, Martin Taylor, and him and I made an album called Masterpiece Guitars. I'm sure it'll be properly released sometime. And we play somebody else's guitars, all of them, not 60 guitars on an album. We don't own any of them, but basically it was somebody's collection, you know, and we did that. And that was a great opportunity. Similar to Natural Timbre is another opportunity to primarily, although there were a few electrics, it was primarily acoustic guitars, you know, like who'd ever heard of Stromberg, you know, this particular model, or, you know, an actual L5 Lloyd Lawyer, you know, where could you say? So we were also doing something quite historical. And that's why I think, in a way, Natural Timbre is quite like that for my guitar collection. It is quite a historical document of a wide range of instruments in my collection.
Are you quite interested in that side of music as well, actually documenting, being almost a historical person for music, etc., and sound of instruments?
Yeah, to the extent that every instrument I own has always had, either initially or still has, a really important role, you know, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. So I don't like buying superfluous things. I would buy things that, oh God, if I got one of those, I might be able to do this. And I'm just looking down and I can see there's listing about, it's almost 20. I think I guessed 20, didn't I, first of all? But I can see 20 different guitars on the album. There's even a guitar from 1836 and
wow.
called a Panorama. That's one of the quite valuable antique guitars I have, is called a Panorama. They're one of the best The British, but it's a very French sounding name. So, but Panormo made great guitars around that time, 1810, 1850. And I play one on here. So there are very special instruments. Like also, I play the banjo guitar, and it sounds pretty much like a banjo, but I don't have to fiddle with it. So lots of fun doing a record that has, in a way, like a piano. An acoustic guitar is an undeniable force. It doesn't. You can't mess with it. You can't mess. You can't mess it up. Is what you can't do, because it's what it is. And therefore, acoustic musical instruments, like Rudolf Steiner used to say, are great. Young children should hear that acoustic sound, know that it could be able to spot an oboe from a clarinet, or a guitar from a mandolin. We should know that information, because that it's like I think you could call them the instruments of the spheres.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of an aside from that, but do you feel the same sort of way about acoustics? Because I've got a friend who I've interviewed on here before now, Aziz Ibrahim, who is a guitarist, and he's doing work now, or some of the work that he's doing is with a heritage fund, where he's doing stuff like recording in heritage lace mills and things like that to capture the acoustics of buildings which probably may not be there forever and a day. Are you interested in that as well? Like, can you think of like places you've played where you feel like it's got such a unique sound and it would just be?
Yeah. Well, I could talk for ages. What I would say, the first time I really sensed that was in a theatre in Italy. I was standing on the stage doing a sound check, and it was a very exciting small theatre with several balconies. And the guy walked past me and said, "Do you know that Mozart played on that stage? He showed up and played and gone away." And I thought that was really thrilling. So I don't know if things ever been that big, but I am interested in leaving some clarity and where I can. That's why I did my Steve Howe guitar collection book, because I wanted to say, look, this is the stuff I like. This is the kind of weird stuff I like. Here it is. And here's the document. Tony Bacon, who I've just recently been back in touch with, was the co-writer on that, because he's an authoritarian on guitars and has resources at his disposal to find out anything. So it was good to do that, and I do enjoy that. It's nice to know that you're doing clarity, so people can see things. No good hiding it behind itself.
Was there anything that you wish you had got hold of to play on this particular album as you were stripping things right back?
Well, when I did the Masterpiece Guitars album with Martin Taylor, there was an OM28 Martin that I would have loved to have brought home. But in the end, what I find is that the guitars I have are actually the best guitars for me. I know them, I'm used to them, and as I've got older, I don't like so much changing all this fingerboard stuff, So if I'm playing a 6-string, it has to be a 6-string I really know, So I like, because it's so familiar. Well, I play on something unfamiliar, so I can warm up on a guitar fairly well. If I think, I'll record this. There's a time every now and again, it's the electric instrument, but every now and again I brought out my Fender electric mandolin, and it's like a miniature Stratocaster. And sometimes I'll record that and go, Jesus, that's the only thing that sounds like that. It's a 4-string mandolin. So the instruments, having their clarity and you can tell the history. That's why I always list guitars I play on, just in case somewhere down the line somebody wants to know. Maybe 99% of the people don't need to know, but that 1% they're like me. They're quirky.
We have a lot of younger musicians on this program as well, and it strikes me that compared with when I was growing up and trying to get hold of an instrument for the first time, whatever, a lot of youngsters seem to be very fortunate, maybe because of economics and everything as well, that they seem to be able to get into being able to afford a fairly reasonable guitar right from the words go. Whereas my first guitar was a catalog guitar. I'm pretty certain, like a lot of people's work. What was your first guitar?
Well, it was just a regular cello guitar, and it cost about 14 guineas or 12 guineas. I bought it in King's Cross, London.
There you go.
And it was a brown thing. I don't even know if it had a name on it. It looked like a Framus. For all intents and purposes, it could have been a frame, but it wasn't. But basically, I chopped on with that guitar for a couple of years until I got an Antoria guitar, an LG50 it was called, a very tiny body with a neck. And in fact, Hank Marvin played the same guitar before he got his Stratocaster. So it was a good guitar to go to. And I think I needed to go to electric, but I did need those couple of years without one, because I do wonder if you start an electric, you get the wrong idea about this thing. You could get the wrong idea, because like I'll go back to a few answers back when I said about the value of an acoustic guitar, that knowing that sound, knowing how to produce it is more important than anything else. It's the most important thing about being a guitarist, is that you know how to make a guitar, quote, not electric, but a guitar, how you make it talk, how you make it sing, how you make it beautiful.
Yeah, how you make it go quiet and loud, and the subtleties of tone and whatever, and actually when you first start, how you get anything out of it without it sounding awful.
That's the struggle. I can remember still.
Especially if your action is like
centimeters.
centimeters.
Actions were terrible. You didn't even know what the action was. You had a guitar and it was like you had to work at pressing the strings down, as opposed to
this is like a cheese grater. What am I doing here? Are you likely to release anything else from your back catalogue as a re-release anytime soon?
In-house sound, we started in 95 when we did Motif Volume 1, and we did Homebrews, and then the trio, Steve Howe Trio. So basically that's an outlet for my music when it becomes available. And we do own the rights to quite a few more of my solo albums, but we're just kind of pacing ourselves so that house sound is doing sufficient, but not too much,
Yeah. Do you know what? I'll be completely honest with you. Before I said I was coming to do this today, I put out a little thing on X, as it is now, Twitter as I still call it.
Yes.
And a few people kind of commented back. And of course, one of the most common things that people wanted me to ask you was about a Yes reunion. Do you get fed up of that question? I mean, do you just think what happens in life? This is what I'm doing at the moment.
No, you're totally right. You judged me right. You got from my vibe that's the way it is. Yeah, I don't discuss it. No, I just don't discuss it because. Because I won't add anything else, because I know I add anything, it's actually talking about it. But what I do is not talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely right. And that's exactly what I said back to them, believe it or not.
You'll most probably say he's not talking about it.
No, I said I don't really want to talk about it myself, because
yes,
ultimately I think every musician just wants to talk about where they're at any given time and what it is that they're really focused on.
It's great looking back at the fantastic days that most of our fans love as much as we do. But there again, we can't live there. We have to live here. And it's good. It's fun.
Yeah. What I will ask you this though, what haven't you done yet in your career, which has been absolutely amazing, but what haven't you done yet that you would like to do?
Well, I finished an album that I really like to do, and that will come out hopefully next year, but that's all I can say about that. But also the other thing is finding different ways to do shows and solo shows, finding the avenue is not closed, it's not signed and sealed. So the way Yes work, and when we get back to the UK next year, I'm sure that you'll see us developing, and I guess that's the key. And similar with solo, I like playing solo guitar immensely at the moment. So I want to get out next year and do a few shows and, get the buzz that this is where my music's leading me, as much as it is with Yes, because, I can't say, but, we've got plans for next year as well. So we're going to be fairly dominant and fairly busy.
Yeah, very, very quick one. When I actually interviewed both Billy Sherwood and Jeff Downes in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
And one of the things that Billy said to me right at the time was, at this moment in time, I would play to a couple of people in Starbucks. Yeah. How it seems like a million years ago in some respects, COVID. But I mean, you've had such a great career, such a long career as well. But that was such an extraordinary part of everybody's life.
That's right. Completely. What happened to me was at first, of course, the shock horror for about 2 months. I really couldn't envisage what the hell was going to happen after, so much touring and so much work. But then, what happened, you had to accept it. And then fortunately I'd upgraded my studio. So I liked my studio and I started looking back at stuff or writing a bit more music. And I'd already been doing just that for Yes's album, The Quest. And I didn't usually write particularly for Yes. I just wrote music. But this time I thought, I'll hone in on Yes a bit. Let's see if I can get a few titles that they like. So that basically meant that the whole of COVID was spent immersed in music, writing. And fortunately, my book was already prepared. That came out in 2020. Called All My Yesterdays. So there was a little bit of stuff out there that I didn't have to think about that was already prepared, fortunately. But we didn't know it was coming, we couldn't see it and it was worrying. But then gradually, we got back on tour and tentatively and now very productively. So, it's been a very big learning curve. And I think it's put a lot of pressure on everybody who's had to weather, vast changes in what their life consists of.
Now, last question, and then I will let you go. Thank you so much for today, by the way. I hope you've enjoyed the interview.
Yeah.
We both discovered we're both in the West Country.
Yeah.
So, have you ever written a song about the West Country?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first song I wrote was called Corkscrew. Now, that's an instrumental on Turbulence, but also on another album, I think it's live album, I sing the words to that. And they're very meaningful for me because it was the first time I'd really, had a topic that I wanted to avoid what it was, but I wanted to sing about it. And it had, so I've developed that tune. So it's actually a solo guitar, non-vocal piece called Corkscrew. And that appears on my solo album, the live solo album, not necessarily acoustic, I think. So that's an arrangement I really like when I take a song and the tune's in my head and the words are in my head, but I can play it on guitar. So, but I've written, most songs would have, none of my songs are allowed to say, this is what it's about. Like, I love you, baby. I love to write a song that's called I Love You, Baby. But, you don't, because that's crazy. That's just not even thinking about presenting something, with any level of poetic license. So, this is a very interesting stuff, but I could go on for ages. But there's a taste. Yeah, the kind of West Country flavor is in my music ever since the Yes album. Because we came here to this very place and we worked on the Yes album. And basically, I had no idea I'd be here, all these years later, 50 years later, just enjoying, 55 years later, just enjoying it and being able to maintain a sort of Yes story in the West Country.
Well, there you go. Now, you see, we've set the challenge. So probably what will happen now is, a bit like when Nick Kershaw wrote The Riddle years ago, is we'll probably have a whole load of diehard fans scouring through your music that you've created, trying to work out where in the West Country the inspiration is. Do it, folks. Take as much time as you like doing that.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter.
It was a definite, and that was the first of many.
There you go.
Look, it made it fun, Graham. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming on today. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed it too. If you have, then please do go and share this with other people. We will be back soon with more of my music. But until then, from Steve and myself, bye for now.